Welcome to the ocean of history. In 1895, Peljidiin Genden was born in Mongolia. Genden grew up herding cattle and horses. He also studied under the local Mongolian mayor, received education at home, and joined the local military to protect the province. In 1922, Genden became involved in the Mongolian Revolutionary Youth League, whose primary responsibility was to promote the policies and decisions of the Mongolian People's Party. In 1922, Mongolia was in a complex state of affairs. We need to understand that in 1911, Mongolia declared independence and established an autonomous government under the leadership of the 8th Zubzundak Kuduk, becoming a constitutional monarchy. In 1912, Yuan Shikai, the provisional president of the Republic of China, informally recognized Mongolia's autonomy. On May 25, 1915, the Beiyang government of the Republic of China and representatives of Mongolia signed the Treaty of Kyoto, reaffirming China's recognition of Mongolia's autonomy. In October 1919, Xu Shuzhen, who served as the commander of the Northwest Frontier Defense Army, led the 1st Division of the Northwest Frontier Defense Army to enter Mongolia. By using force, they compelled Mongolia to revoke its autonomy on November 17, 1919, and brought it under the direct rule of Beiyang government of the Republic of China. In 1921, with the assistance of the Soviet Red Army, Mongolia successfully drove out the Republic of China's troops from Mongolia. Mongolia then established a pro-Soviet constitutional monarchy, and the 8th Zubzundak Kuduk was reinstated. In 1922, Mongolia can be described as being deeply influenced by the Soviet Union and undergoing significant political changes. From July 1922 to March 1924, Genden was appointed as a local leader in his area. In November 1924, Genden, as a representative of the Overkhangai province, participated in the first session of the Mongolian National Parliament. Prime Minister Balingin Serendoj noticed Genden's frankness and outspokenness, and based on Serendoj's recommendation, Genden was elected as the Speaker of Parliament, responsible for the country's day-to-day affairs. From November 29, 1924 to November 15, 1927, Genden served in that position while also holding the position of Chairman of the Central Bureau of Mongolia's Trade Union. It is worth mentioning that on April 17, 1924, the Mongolian monarch 8th Zubzundak Kuduk passed away. In the same year, the Mongolian People's Party renamed itself as the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party. With the support and actions of the Soviet Union, they declared the abolition of the constitutional monarchy and established the Mongolian People's Republic. The government of the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party also announced the cessation of the search for the reincarnation of the spiritual leader. The Mongolian People's Republic allowed the Soviet troops to station in their country, thereby solidifying Mongolia as one of the satellite states of the Soviet Union. At the time of its establishment, the Mongolian People's Republic was strongly influenced by the Soviet Union and became a one-party socialist state. Its system was based on Marxist-Leninist ideology, emphasizing the state control of the economy and the abolition of private ownership. On September 14, 1928, the Executive Committee of the Communist International decided to send a delegation to participate in the 8th Congress of the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party. One of the tasks of the delegation was to remove right-leaning members from the leadership ranks in Mongolia. This led to a severe purge of the right-wing faction within the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party during the 8th Congress. As a result of the purge, Genden was able to assume the position of one of the 3 secretaries of the Central Committee of the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party on December 11, 1928. Due to the elimination of right-wing members, the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party was left with mainly left-wing and ultra-left-wing factions. This led to the rapid and forced implementation of communist economic policies in the early 1930s. These policies included mandatory collectivization, the abolition of private enterprises, the closure of temples, and the confiscation of property belonging to monks. As one of the secretaries of the Central Committee of the Mongolian People's Party, Genden was certainly involved in these policies. The consequences of these policies led to the outbreak of counter-revolutionary uprisings between 1930 and 1932 in several provinces. As the counter-revolutionary movements intensified, the Soviet Union ordered the suspension of what they considered the leftist policies of the Mongolian government. In May 1932, several leaders of the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party, who were seen as attempting to push forward communist measures, prematurely were purged, including Prime Minister Jigjijaev. Although Genden was one of the key figures behind the implementation of the leftist policies, he managed to survive the purge. In June 1932, during a meeting of the Central Executive Committee, Genden expressed his views, providing a thorough analysis of the domestic and international situation in Mongolia. He proposed new reform plans to address the party's mistakes and the challenges they faced. Genden's new reform proposals gained support from the attendees, and on the 2nd of July 1932, he was appointed as the Prime Minister of the Mongolian People's Republic by Moscow. Under the new policies, taxes of common people were reduced, private enterprises were allowed to grow, and religious institutions were preserved without interference. The overall economic situation in Mongolia began to improve, and shortages of goods began to decrease. As a result, Genden became very popular among the public. However, these new policies deviated from the socialist model of the Soviet Union, which displeased Stalin and led to his criticism of Genden. Stalin made three main accusations against Genden. Firstly, Genden's slogan of enrichment was seen as problematic. Secondly, Genden's positioning of the party was criticized. He proposed that the party should be a political driving force rather than a significant administrative power, which was seen as weakening the importance of the party. Thirdly, Genden was accused of not following Stalin's orders to suppress the monks and instead supporting them, distorting the party's policies towards the monks. Indeed, cracks began to appear in the relationship between Genden and Stalin as early as 1934. During a meeting in Moscow, Stalin pressured Genden to eliminate 100,000 Buddhist monks as he believed that enemies were hiding among them. Stalin held the view that religious beliefs would hinder the progress of the people and the development of science in the country. In the Soviet Union, Stalin vigorously implemented various policies to promote atheism. However, Genden was a devout Buddhist and passively resisted Stalin's demand. Genden once stated that there were two great geniuses in the world, one being the Buddha and the other being Lenin. This demonstrated Genden's deep devotion to Buddhism and his admiration for Lenin. Between 1934 and 1936, Genden had 4 meetings with Soviet leader Stalin, and according to records, each meeting turned into heated debates. In 1936, Genden visited the Soviet Union once again to meet with Stalin. Initially, it was meant to be a pleasant meeting, and alcohol was consumed by those who were present. However, during this meeting, Stalin used this opportunity to once again harshly criticize Genden, accusing him of not implementing the policy of eradicating religion and mocking him. In a drunken state, Genden defended himself against Stalin's accusations, but the conflict eventually escalated. Under the influence of alcohol, Genden angrily shouted at Stalin saying, "You bloody Georgian, you have become a virtual Russian Tsar." He then slapped Stalin and snatched his pipe, smashing it in front of everyone. Genden also shouted, "Mongolia is considering an alliance with Japan." The Soviet and Mongolian officials present at the time were stunned, as nobody expected such an incident to occur. Afterward, Genden safely returned to Mongolia. However, how is it possible for Stalin to just let this matter go like that? In March 1936, Stalin held the Second Congress of the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party in Ulaanbaatar. During the Congress, party members harshly criticized Genden for his action in Moscow and accused him of damaging Mongolia's relationship with the Soviet Union. Subsequently, Genden was dismissed from his positions as Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. In April 1936, he was sent to the Soviet Union, officially for medical treatment, but in reality, he was placed under house arrest. In July 1937, Genden was arrested by the Soviet NKVD, which is the People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs, on charges of conspiring with reactionary monks and Japanese spies, which he admitted under interrogation. According to Soviet law, he was sentenced to death and was secretly executed in Moscow on November 26, 1937. In September 1937, the Soviet Union launched a large-scale purge in Mongolia, targeting the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party. Many high-ranking members of the party were arrested and executed, and their families were not spared, including the pregnant wife of one of the high-ranking officials. Between 1937 and 1939, A total of 56,938 people were arrested, out of which 20,396 were executed. Among those arrested, 17,335 were monks. It is important to note that in 1940, Mongolia had a population of approximately 738,000 people. The fact that nearly 3% of the population lost their lives due to the purge is tragic and a significant loss. Due to the de-Stalinization policy that began in 1956, many individuals who were persecuted under Stalin's regime were rehabilitated, and Genden was among them. On December 15, 1956, the military collegium of the Supreme Court of the Soviet Union declared Genden innocent of the alleged counter-revolutionary and Japanese spy charges. However, people still hesitated to mention his name until the Mongolian Revolution of 1990. We have come to an end for the story of Peljidiin Genden. See you next time.